It's Load the Box. It's Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in to Load the Box. It's not Wednesday for us, Will, is it? But it's weird. The recording schedule is odd this season, but I kind of vibe with it. I'm Jordan Hawthorne. That's the Bad Loser himself, Will Bad Lose, who you can find on social media at Will Bad Lose. We're just two Vikings fans on a magic carpet ride. I mean, Sam Darnold came to our castle, picked us up, and is singing a whole new world. And we left the tiger in the castle. It's beautiful, man. I mean, we're undefeated through 4 games. Neither one of us picked that. Neither one of us picked that. So, Will, I want to get you, before we get into feels good, feels bad, I do want to, are you 1 to 10? I feel like last week we were both 10s. Are you a 10 this week, or are you like a 7?
I think I'm still pretty high because I think the way I think about it is you go to Lambeau Field and you thoroughly dominate the game for about half of it. And despite the second half being ugly and 29 points allowed in the last half, 22 in the fourth quarter, the offense was a little bit sort of just pedestrian and all that being said, what the second half basically amounted to was garbage time. And so, I mean, the Vikings win probability didn't dip as low. The lowest it dipped was 81%. Even when the Packers got to 28-22, yes, the game was somewhat in question, but at no point did the Packers have the ball down 1 score with a chance to tie or take the lead. So, yeah. Despite all of the ugliness of the second half and sort of the way they let Green Bay back in the game, the Vikings were clearly the better team yesterday. And so, scale 1 to 10, I guess I'll give you an 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Winning at Lambeau Field is never easy. Yeah. How about yourself?
Well, I was going to kind of play off of you, and you saying 809 is encouraging me to go back, Will, to drinking the purple Kool-Aid, all in, these are all projections, but these are based off the first month of the seasons. The Vikings aren't going to lose a game, and it seems like we're going to win every game by a lot. It kind of feels like I'm watching the Ohio State Buckeyes take on Akron and Central Michigan and all this. And then they finally got the big Ten opener against Michigan State, and we just buried them too. But, of course, our Big Ten opener was the NFC North opener against Green Bay. So let's kick off. Feels good, feels bad. I'm going to have to get graphics and like sound effects and stuff. We're going to have to really do this up. But feels good. Well, what doesn't feel good about this? Beating Green Bay back-to-back years in Lambeau Field and having Packers fans, their salty, salty tears, just drinking them up like the ocean, like when you jump mouth open head first into the ocean, and it's bad, but it's kind of cool because you're in Florida. But what a beautiful day it is to scroll x.com and see, oh, congratulations on your Super Bowl. Jordan Love threw for blah, 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 whatever. I don't care. 1-0, scoreboard losers, take the L, hold this, let's get it. I'm super hyped. I mean, how can you not be? So feels good. Vikings 1-0 in the division, 3-0 in the conference, and beating the nasty Green Bay Packers, who, by the way, a lot of people picked to like go to the Super Bowl or at least get deep in the playoffs this season. And we were up 28-0 at one point. Will, feels good. What feels good?
It feels good that the Packers probably wish they had Greg Joseph on their roster still. It was pretty good. Greg the Leg kicked 5 field goals on Thursday Night Football for the Giants, and a 53-yarder included. And the Green Bay Packers had a guy named Narveson who wears 44, and he missed 2 kicks. And obviously the game plays out different if he makes those, but there is a... Packers potentially win that game if he makes a kick. So, feels pretty good.
Yeah, no, feels very good. To be the team with the good kicker, That's crazy. That's something we don't know.
It's also just funny because Greg Joseph was, all Vikings fans wanted him gone, and justifiably so. He was an up and down kicker. He made some clutch kicks, but he was not reliable. He was not going to be the long term guy, especially when you draft a kicker, Will Reichard, in 2024. So, all that being said, I think the other thing, a little bit of joking aside there, what felt good yesterday was, although Justin Jefferson didn't have a huge game statistically, 6 catches, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. It's a good game. You do that every week, you're well over 1,000 yards for the season. He's got 4 touchdowns, by the way, in 4 weeks. He's got 1 in every game. But what felt good about Justin Jefferson's performance was the timeliness of basically every one of his catches, save 2 maybe. The first one in the first half was like a 5-yard out. It just was to eat some yards. There was another 9-yard play, very similar. But the other 4 catches all were very significant. There was the ridiculous back shoulder fade touchdown pass that went past the cornerback's right ear hole, which basically just hit Justin Jefferson in the neck, and he one-handed caught it. The one that was the biggest, though, there was really 3 big ones down the stretch. Fourth quarter, there was that 17-yarder to start the drive. You're only up 6. There's tension. Everybody in the world's thinking you're going to run the ball, and they audible at the line of scrimmage and get a 17-yard gain to Justin Jefferson to get that drive moving. That ended up being the field goal that put the game back to 9. But then, of course, the toe drag on 3rd and 12, the ridiculous... Kevin O'Connell put it something along the lines of he'd never seen anybody cover that much ground on that route, especially in that spot. And so there was that catch, obviously ridiculous, kept the chains moving, allowed the Vikings to eat more clock. But even before that, if I remember right, Jordan, there was a big, 27-yard catch and run that got into field goal range on the previous drive as well. Yeah. So it was these 4 massive catches that none of them felt small or insignificant. Even if the catches were only 13 yards, 14 yards, 17 yards, they were massive moments. And I mean, that's what you want. You pay the guy the most money for any wide receiver. You're not just looking for statistics. You're looking for moments. And he provided those yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jefferson, as a Justin Jefferson fantasy owner who proclaimed he was going to win the MVP and go for well over 2,000 yards this season, that feels bad, to be honest with you, because Jefferson as a fantasy asset has been pretty good, but not I picked him at 3, so he hasn't been the game wrecker, oh my gosh, 35, 30-point games. It's been a consistent 20, which is a good, it's Justin Jefferson. He's going to be fine, but not that holy cow, he's winning the league type of output that I wanted from him. So that feels bad. Also feels bad my fantasy team in general. The ultimate feels bad in what is supposed to be a fun, easygoing segment. Hall of Famer should be Pete Rose has passed away. My mandatory I am from Cincinnati is about to show. I'm devastated. I found out after we recorded Grades from the Couch, my brother dropped a holy S and then revealed that news to me. My wife texted me in the middle of recording it. I didn't see it, and my dad sending me pictures of when him and my wife met Pete Rose. I think my dad said the best thing you could do would be to give my wife or let my wife kiss you on the cheek. And let me take a picture of it. Better than any autograph. My dad has the picture framed. I'm pretty sure we are a Pete Rose family, and the fact that man has passed away without being in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame, the hit king, is an atrocity to me, gambling aside, all that stuff aside. Really sad day here in Cincinnati. So that is the ultimate feels bad that Pete Rose has passed away. He is a Cincinnati legend, icon, and hero. What feels bad for you, Will?
I don't think I can really follow that quite well.
I know it's tough.
I'm gonna save the. We don't need to bemoan the second half with all these feels bad comments. I mean, we know it was a bad half. We can talk a little bit more about the game in a second. I think something that feels bad to me and something that I gotta have to keep coming back to until my grave is officially dug and buried. My Jaguars, man. 0-4. They look awful. They can't close out games. They got a
It's
fourth
tough.
and goal, up 3 with the chance to put the game away. Trevor Lawrence gets tripped up short of the goal line, and then Houston goes on about a 97-yard drive to win the game. It's just pain, man. Simultaneously, I picked the Texans to make the AFC Championship game, so I guess there's maybe some silver lining in that for me, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any reprieve for my Trevor Lawrence-led Jags. So that feels bad, Jordan.
Yeah, that's got to
really
feel bad.
does.
A Mo lighthearted feels bad. I picked, and this can be our segue into the actual game talk. I picked the Vikings to win this game 31-17. And when it was 28-0, just being honest, I felt pretty good. I was like, oh, cool. Like, Green Bay will probably get some garbage time points. The Vikings will score a couple. It's a realistic possibility. I hit this on the head, a 14-point win. And then Sam Darnold throws a pick that wasn't a pick. He gets blindsided for a strip sack. And all of a sudden, Green Bay has it, down 6. Vikings get the ball, kick a field goal. Now it's 9. Vikings go for it. I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, it's still alive. We can still, 14 point, 9 point. That's only 5 off. That's a good week. Nope. Nada. We don't get it. They go down in like 15 seconds and score a touchdown, make it a 2-point game, and don't get the onside. Love that we won the game. We're going to talk about it now, but feels bad that I am now on the season 71 points off of the Vikings games, whereas you are only 62 points off my 1 week. That week 1 felt really good for me, though, when I was up by 7, and now you are up by 9. I'm coming though. I've got the line on this Jets game, so this is the week I make my comeback. But before we talk about the Jets, we got to talk about Green Bay, and we got to put a nice bow on this one. And what a game it was! I got to take these sunglasses off. I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid, but it's dark in my house, and I can't see my screen very well. And I like to see who I'm talking to. All right. Locking in. We'll start with you. We'll start with the good. The first half of that game, the Vikings defense was flying around. The Vikings offense was flying around. It seemed like they were an unstoppable force going up against a very movable object. What impressed you the most about the first half hour of football the Vikings played in Sambeau Field on Sunday?
I think mainly it was that it was relentless and there was no let up. There was, any number of those first 4 drives that resulted in touchdowns could have been, we'll kick a field goal here. We're already up 17. It's okay. Maybe you don't go for the kill shot. And, ultimately they needed all those touchdowns in the end. None of them really were a kill shot. But, I mean, when you go up 28, you've effectively put the game away. Now, obviously, it got more competitive, but I think that was the thing that was most encouraging. It was that in that first half, the defense, with the big lead, didn't relent. The offense did not relent. And it was just stop after stop after turnover after turnover after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And it was just constant. And the deafening silence coupled with a few skull chants on CBS yesterday in that first half, and you see these Packers fans and their cheeseheads literally face in hands, unsure what to do, it was a marvel to watch that happen because, Jordan, you and I know, no matter how good the Vikings are, no matter how mediocre the Packers are, going to Lambeau Field is always an adventure. And it always feels like 2 bad things happen, it snowballs, and it's just gonna end badly.
Absolutely.
I mean, cite 2022 week 17, Vikings get their doors blown off when they're a 12-win team or whatever, and you go lose by 100 points to a team that doesn't even make the playoffs. So I think that was it. The other thing too that I want to note on that front, I think the start of this season says a lot about a lot of things. There's a lot of praise and compliments, and not that they want to hear it at this point, but to go around. You can look at the coaching staff. You can look at Brian Flores' defense. You can look at the complementary football that's being played offensively. Everybody's touching the ball. The wealth is being spread around. It's not just Justin Jefferson. The special teams are making plays. The Vikings defense is turning the ball over. There's so much praise to go around. There's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa's free agent signings. There's even some of the rookies that he drafted already making impacts. But I think what this start says more than anything is the rise and the steps that Kevin O'Connell has taken from year one to year two, which maybe were a little bit more unseen considering the chaos that happened last year. And it's hard to really show your coaching chops when you have a team that was really sort of never set up to succeed after Kirk Cousins went down. To now see where he's at and where he has this team is pretty remarkable. And the aggressiveness that he's always sort of had, coupled with the mind and the marriage between the offense and the defense, and the way that this team is already, early in the season, humming like a machine. Yeah, there's kinks. Yeah, you need some WD-40 here and there, but they are already working so well cohesively. And, save a few penalties here and there. I'm not thrilled with how many penalties they're getting. I'm not thrilled with the amount of turnovers so far. Everything else, this team is playing like a well-oiled machine already. And to me, that shows so much of how far Kevin O'Connell has come to be, in my mind, one of the best coaches in the NFL already. And I wouldn't have said that last year. I've always been high on Kevin O'Connell. I've always thought he had a good future. I'm starting to see that future might be beginning. And you don't take a team that everyone thought was going to be a dumpster fire and a rebuild to 4-0 without excellent coaching. And make no mistake, Sam Darnold's been awesome, but this doesn't happen without Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I did something to my earbuds so I could hear myself. I was way too loud in my own head. I think what's so impressive about this game in particular, I keep waiting for the, oh no, we don't look like the most physical team on the field today conversation to have to be had. And I keep waiting for that panic. It's not happening. Every game they come out, and it is a lifestyle, it's a mindset, it is something, well, Flo talked about in a press conference a couple weeks ago that Kevin had like a nasty streak or a dark side, however he phrased it. It's showing on the football team, because I do think Kevin O'Connell went into this offseason, this training camp, the prep for the Giants game, and he said, hey, you got no more Mr. Nice Kevin, okay? It's now Nasty Kevin, okay? Nasty Kev is coming in. I'm going to beat the aggression into you, and he did. Like, he just truly did. So that's what was most impressive to me. The Vikings came out, immediately punched Green Bay in the mouth in their house. I think Josh said it really well yesterday on Goys from the Couch. The Vikings only had one sack in this game, which, they've had 5+ in all the other ones. Even though they only had the one sack, it felt like Jordan Love was living on the ground. It felt like every other play he was getting thrown down, pushed down, hit as he threw, and the Vikings were living around his ankles and his knees, which, again, we are not a show that promotes injuring people. We don't say, oh, we have to try and knock Jordan Love out of the game. But when you have a quarterback that's coming off of a knee problem, maybe coming back a week or two too soon, I know he had a super high amount of yards and whatever, but whatever. All that contact that he was taking is it's just going to keep adding up, and it's just going to keep making him second guess things. And I think that showed. He had 3 interceptions, and that's a guy who week 17, 16, 17 of last season lit the Vikings defense up. And the Vikings defense was banged up, but really just torched us. And the Vikings defense came back and said, yeah, look, you can torch us in the second half when we already have a 28-point lead. We are going to really dominate this game, stouting out, and we're going to make you feel our presence, and we're going to make you make some mistakes. So that was what was most impressive to me, was the overall team's ability to punch in the mouth, specifically the defense, though, just coming out and saying, no, we're gonna be the best, most physical team on the field today.
It speaks a lot to what O'Connell and Flores especially, but really everybody, coaches specifically, players too, have been emphasizing basically since media availability began back in the springtime, was this desire to bring in guys, the free agent signings, the rookies, that were smart, physical, and love football.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean, may you ask, right? I mean, obviously the physical makes sense. I mean, you see it on the field. A great example of that is, I think, Jonathan Grenard and Blake Cashman. There's always a hit that's going to be made when they're involved in the play, and it's going to be legal. And you saw it every time one of those guys pressured Jordan Love yesterday. They gave him a little shove. They made sure he knew that they were there. So the physical thing, that goes without saying. The smarts, that's something where they've just emphasized over and over again, because you've got a complex offense, a complex defense that relies on player empowerment and player involvement. And
Absolutely.
If you don't have smart football players, it's not going to work either side of the ball. And not that the guys they've had in the last 2 years weren't smart football players, but they've really prioritized that this offseason. So the guys they brought in and added to the team fit that bill to a T. And the last thing that I think is so interesting, that seems so small and something you could just gloss over, is the love football part. And the thing that they talked about, which I think speaks a lot to what you're seeing in these games yesterday as well, guys are just willing to make plays, even if it's not a stat, even if it's not something that they get the glory from. Justin Jefferson made a huge block on that Jordan Addison touchdown run. If the announcer doesn't, call his name out, no one's going to know about it, because it's like, oh, cool, Jordan Addison made a sweet move and broke somebody's ankles and got into the end zone. But part of the reason why that happened is because Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the league, key block on the edge.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that are just emanating from this team, and when they talk about loving football, it's that. So that's what I think of when I hear you talking about all this, Jordan, because this isn't just a bunch of guys that run out there and know how to play football and they do it for their job. It's all of those ingredients together.
Yeah, there was a saying, someone else said it. I didn't come up with this, but I remember it was back in 2017, 18. Someone used to always say, like, Everson Griffin would play football for the fun of the game and a ham sandwich. Like, he would go out there and he'd play for a ham sandwich, basically. He didn't care about the money. He just wanted to play football and hit somebody. It feels like the Vikings have, like, 27 guys that are just out there to hit somebody. Or to go out there and make a play and do it for the love of the game, the love and the desire to want to be a part of something absolutely greater than themselves. And I think that's crucial, man. I think you have to have that if you want to have the aspirations that, look, with every win, the percent chance that the Vikings go to and win a Super Bowl goes up just a smidgen. And so I'm not saying we won the Super Bowl because we went undefeated in the month of September. I'm just saying, well, yeah, I mean, look, if you go 3-0, if you go 4-0, you're more likely to win the Super Bowl than if you go 3-0. I mean, I think it's just every win kind of stacks it up or whatever. So, I don't know. Now we got to shift it. We got to get a little negative, and then we'll get into some overreactions. But, obviously, it all started with the Jalen Nailor dumbest decision I've seen made this season by a Viking. Reaching up, trying to catch that punt. It was over his head, just a dumb decision by Jalen Nailor, and he didn't really have much involvement in the game after that fact. that I can remember. I think he maybe had one catch, and it might have been in the second half, but I truly can't remember.
He had a big catch. I think it was actually in the first half. It was on like a 3rd and 20 or something. It
Okay,
was like a
but that
third
was
and
in the
long
first half.
first drive of the game. Yeah, I think 3rd and 14, and Darnold hit Naylor for a big gain that set up the
Yeah.
Addison touchdown.
And so, like, looking at that, he had minimal involvement, which we all expected with Addison coming back. His touches were going to go down. He wasn't going to be as active. To now having no involvement, no touches that I can recall. After that, he maybe had a target after that, but didn't touch the ball after that muff. Just a really boneheaded play that gives the Packers a touchdown. Then they get the ball after halftime. And then the punt fest began, where it was punt, 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 punt. Okay, third quarter's over. It's 28-7. Let's just ride this out. Go home healthy. And then we drive down the field, and Sam Darnold throws an interception. That wasn't an interception, which is crucial to say. I don't know how replay missed that one. I truly don't. But guy was bobbling it clearly with all of his body in the air, and then he catches it, comes down on his elbows, clearly like 2-3 yards out of bounds. It was pretty egregious missed call, but either way, they get the ball back, they go score. The defense starts to show cracks, if you will. Do you attribute it more to, hey, let's just not let a big play happen, keep everything underneath, get out of here healthy? Or do you think Green Bay legitimately said, hey, we know what you're doing. We are calling your BS, and we are going to expose you and hang 22 points in this fourth quarter? Which one do you attribute it more?
I think a little bit of both. Mainly the former. The reason why I say a little bit of both is because Byron Murphy, after the game, gave Jordan Love a lot of credit for starting to pick things up a little better. He said, even though, it's clear that Love isn't going to know everything that, we're doing defensively because every look is a little different. He said at a certain point you could tell when we would check into something, he had a better idea of how to attack it. So Murphy gave him some credit for that. I think a lot of it, though, you could tell it was just allowing these intermediate throws in the middle of the field sort of over and over again. And, it's the age-old grumpy dad from the couch. Oh, we got to stop playing prevent defense.
Yeah.
But in some ways, that's kind of what it was. It was this too deep cover two shell sort of feel where it's just like, sure, Jordan, you can have as many 15-yard completions to Ontavian Wicks as you want. With that, my opinion, honestly, when I was watching the game was, why aren't we just continuing to do what we were doing? So what if you give up a big play touchdown? You're up 20. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, because the Packers were not having success against the ferocity and the aggression that they were providing in the first half. So I wasn't thrilled with the defensive approach in that regard. So I don't know. I'm going to be curious to hear what Flores has to say, if anything, about the way they approached that second half, because it felt sort of like you're saying, let's just keep them, let's keep them in bounds, let them make catches. Who cares if they score? Let's just get out of here healthy with a win. And that's literally what happened. They gave up about as many points possible without losing that game. And so I attribute it more to the approach necessarily than the Packers just figuring them out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I do think we need to have a blunt conversation about some Sam Darnold decisions, because granted, that was not an interception that he threw. The guy bobbled it out of bounds. It should have been an interception. He threw a deep out to a running back into double coverage. What are we doing, Sam? He had a couple of throws in this one that I would like to talk about. It's that throw, and then it's the throw where it just like Jefferson kind of ran like a weird like comeback, and then it wasn't there, and Sam extended the play, and Jefferson kind of went to run it like towards the sideline, and Sam tried to fit it in there. what Sam forgot about is that there's a Packer standing right in front of Jefferson, so he throws it right to the Green Bay guy, and it just hits him in the chest, and he drops it. So we catch a break there. That's in the first half. I think that's like Sam's second throw, maybe. But I think we maybe need to have a conversation about Sam Darnold, and I have a take for you. I gave it to Josh, and he yelled at me, so hopefully you'll be a little bit more kind about it. But I think Sam Darnold is just like an upgraded Case Keenum, and here's my stats to back it up. Okay, I adjusted Case Keenum's stats to reflect a 17-game season. All right, Case Keenum from 2017. He played in 15 games. If you recall, he didn't play in game one, and then he also didn't have a 17th game because the season was different then. But if you adjust his stats, Keenum would have thrown for 4,019 yards. Donald's on pace for 3,961. So not that much of a disparity in passing yards. Now the touchdowns, there's a huge discrepancy, but Sam's on pace to have more turnovers than that. The completion percentage is off by about like a point, like 1 percentage point. So like pretty similar stuff. Like it seems like they both had pretty decent run games. But if you recall 2017, kind of felt like Keenum would just say, F it, Diggs is down there somewhere, or F it, Thielen's down there somewhere. Kind of feels like Sam has a couple of F it, whatever balls, and we need to cut those out because the expectations for this season are changing. And as they change, my expectations of the QB change, because before the season, it was, let's have a fun 7-win season. Let's just have a good time and be competitive. You play this way through September. Now the expectation is, no, I want deep playoffs. I want to contend. I want Sam Darnold to have a statue in Minnesota, damn it. Like I want him, like that's the expectation now. So what do you think of Sam? Are you thrilled? I know this is more of like a whole season discussion, but are you thrilled with him as the quarterback? And do you have questions about his decision making?
I'm not going to yell at you because I've had very similar thoughts. I can't say I'm thrilled with him as the quarterback. I really like him. Yeah. I think he's been quite adequate and better than I thought he was going to be. I had, decent expectations for him just because I had a lot of faith in what O'Connell was going to do with a guy who has tons of talent and just has never really gotten the time of day in the NFL. Despite him, dodging every one of those questions about his shitty past with all these horrible teams that he used to be on. It's really mature of him to not throw shade on the Panthers and the Jets, and he just doesn't say anything. He's like, I don't like to talk about the past.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I've been very impressed with just his ability to move the ball, throw with rhythm, timing, accuracy, velocity. He's been a very more than adequate, more than competent quarterback. Now, to say that he is the MVP front runner is ludicrous. I don't appreciate those takes and those odds if they exist in Las Vegas, because that tells me that the people who are making those odds are not watching the games. MVP to me is the person who puts their team over the top. The person that is clearly the best player in the league that season, or clearly capitulates their team to a level that would not have been reached without them. Now, Sam Darnold's a really good player this year. He's playing really well. He's obviously scoring the ball at an incredibly high rate. 11 touchdown passes in 4 weeks is nuts.
Yeah.
But he's also got 4 turnovers. And that's not fantastic. It's not horrible, but it's not fantastic. And to your point, it's the YOLO balls and the what the F balls that I don't know if he's necessarily thinking, F it, Aaron Jones is down there somewhere like yesterday, or F it, I can make this throw because I got a cannon on my right arm. But there's these moments, and there's 2 or 3 of them a game where, like I was saying last week, it's the shovel pass, or it's the the tight window double coverage throw yesterday to Aaron Jones was not only a bad decision, a bad throw, and an impossible throw to make, It was just the wrong time. You're up 21. You got the ball in the red zone.
Yep.
Take a field goal. Like and the thing that he's done so well throughout most of the season, save those few moments, is he's just made the right throw. When Kirk Cousins was here, fans would bang on him all the time for not making the risky throw and being more aggressive and, oh, why are you always just taking the tight end check down? That wasn't even that impressive by Cousins because it was just a throw to Hawkinson in the flat and he ran for 15 yards. That's what I love what Sam Darnold's doing most of the time.
Yeah.
He's not trying to overdo it. He's just throwing it to Josh Oliver because he's the guy that's open and it's going to be a touchdown. It doesn't have to be a cool pass. It doesn't have to be something impressive. It's just a touchdown. But then there's these moments where it just seems like he leaves his body for a minute and tries to make a hero play. And I don't know what is maybe the psychology of what's going on with him. Maybe it's bad habits that still need to be worked out. I do know that him and the coaching staff will talk about, trying to remove a bad play or don't make a bad play worse, those sorts of things. But what I think needs to be added on top of that, like you're saying, is just take the right play. You don't need to make a hero play. So I don't think you're off base at all, Jordan. I don't want to get this misconstrued. I have no issue with Sam Darnold as the Vikings starting quarterback, obviously. He's played very well. And I have no desire to remove him and put Nick Mullins in or anything ridiculous like that. But there are things that need to be cleaned up.
Let's move into some overreactions real quick because this show's already floating with going way too long. So we'll be quick with these, and I have a long-winded take that I will very quickly. I'll compress it down. Okay, I'll compress it down. But my take is anything short of Sam getting a statue. Okay, and that's a Super Bowl win. We'll go into JJ next season. That's my overreaction. And I'm going to pose the question, does that sound okay to you? And this is my logic. It's like if you're on The Price is Right, and they're like, hey, you've won a used 2018 Kia, and it has like 25,000 miles on it. It's a solid vehicle. You can also, instead of that, take the mystery box. And there's a 50% chance the mystery box is the keys to virtually the same Kia. There's a 25% chance it's, a bust. And then there's a 25% chance it's a Lambo. And the guy who put the whatever keys into the mystery box, Kevin O'Connell, he keeps talking about how you should really look into that mystery box, man. It looks really good. We love what we're seeing out of the mystery box. We're excited to see the mystery box. So it feels like you go with the mystery box and then you go play defensive tackle Plinko in free agency, and you build this team up with all the money that you're gonna have. So is that an outrageous take on an overreaction Monday, whatever you want to call it?
No, because I'll even go a little further. I think even if Sam Darnold wins you a Super Bowl, I think J.J. McCarthy's the quarterback next year.
Oh, you're going too far. He wins the Super Bowl, he gets a lifetime deal.
Because here's my thing. I think if the fans were to pick who the quarterback was, of course they'd bring Sam Darnold back. You see fans on Twitter already saying we need to bring him back. But I think the way that this front office and really most front offices think is not what you've done for me lately. It's what you're going to do for me. And what Sam Darnold will do for you could be replicate what he did. There's a good chance of that. But there's also the fact that you're going to have to pay him a lot more money. And if he continues to play like this and put up big numbers and win a lot of games, throw a lot of touchdowns, people are going to pay him a lot of money, and the Vikings won't be willing to do that. He's younger than Kirk Cousins, obviously, but the Vikings weren't going to get back in the pay really good money for a good quarterback discussion. They weren't going to do that again. And I just think with what they've been able to do from a roster building perspective, with that extra money that Kirk Cousins no longer is eating up, and in the future, they've got some of these new guys, Grenard, Cashman, Van Ginkel. You're not going to have all that money to throw at Sam Darnold. So I think that's maybe my overreaction is that there is nothing that Sam Darnold can do that will get him back here next year,
Wow.
unless JJ McCarthy's injury is worse than we thought it would be.
Yeah, no, that would obviously be that, but that's a take though. I mean, look, and that's what overreactions is about. And I disagree with you on that. I think that there is a world where Donald, even without a Super Bowl win, ends up getting a 2 or 3 year contract in Minnesota. Even though I would disagree with it, but I like yo mentality because I agree with you. I think paying too much money for good quarterback play is a problem because we've seen what, hey, let's loosen the checkbook a little bit and spend on other guys has done for this team because we immediately vaulted into being the best defense in the NFL. So that's a good one. Do you have any overreactions? Because I have a bunch that I could spit out, but I want to let you spit a couple out if you have something that isn't Sam Darnold related.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on this sentence. I kind of hinted at it earlier. Kevin O'Connell is the best coach in the NFL. What say you to that?
Period.
Number one. Number one.
I have to tip my hat to Andy Reid because of he's trying to win his third consecutive Super Bowl. But after Andy Reid, and I think if you did like a fantasy draft, expansion draft, whatever of coaches, I think Reid would not go because he's like 70. Oh, he's pushing 70.
He's gonna retire tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, like so he's not gonna be. Yeah, I think you still have to. McVay gives the best fight, I think, because he has the Super Bowl. But damn, that's a really good one, I think. I think that's a very good one because O'Connell is certainly looking like he's figured this whole QB thing out. And he knows what he wants, and if he gets what he wants, it's going to be lethal. I mean, it's going to be absolutely lethal. Here's one to throw at you, and I'd like to get your take. Aaron Jones, Shaq Griffin, and Harrison Smith will all be on the Vikings 2025 scouting roster pending health.
Whoa. I think there's a real world that happens.
Right?
Because Aaron Jones doesn't look old right now. Harrison Smith will probably play for a ham sandwich, like you're saying. And if he's not a player, he'll be a coach for the Vikings probably. So
yeah,
he'll be around. And, Shaq Griffin has played decently and has definitely carried his water. And you never can have too many cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe the Vikings draft one next year who becomes a starter. Or maybe, Caleb Evans takes a big leap or Dwight McGlothern becomes awesome. All things that could happen. But why not have Shaq Griffin back on the roster?
Depth.
You need cornerbacks. So it's that's not a crazy one, Jordan. I like the take.
All right, I did too. You get one more in, and then we'll do final thoughts, and we'll in this portion of the show we'll start talking about the Jets.
This is a different one. The Packers' offensive line is their best unit.
Their secondary is good with like Jair and McKinney, but no, I don't. I agree with that one. I think that the Packers O-line, the Vikings had 16 sacks or something going into that game yesterday, or 17 sacks, and so to hold them, especially with the rate at which B-Flow blitzes, they have a very good O-line. I think Love does add to it with his ability to call protections and move things, but it all kind of goes hand in hand. No, I don't think that's that much of a hot take. I think that's actually a very solid observation, if you will.
I also just felt like Green Bay's running game, despite its inability to really get going because of the score, was effective whenever they tried it. And part of that, of course, is the score. The Vikings are letting them have 5-yard carries. They don't care. Yeah. But I felt like Green Bay's offensive line could move people when they wanted, and they had the ability to block up holes, and the timing was really good on their run game as well. So, and they, prior to last week, I don't know if they still are, but they were the number one running team in the NFL. So, kind of the stats bear it out too in that regard. But I was just impressed, I guess, is kind of more what I'm saying, is I was just impressed by the stoutness of their offensive line.
No, it was very impressive. It was a very impressive day. I'll very quickly give my final thoughts for the YouTube crowd, my mid-show thoughts for the podcast crowd. Pete Rose, rest in power. Super sad about. I have the Monday night games on like my other monitor, and the one of them was at halftime, and they just SVP was talking about Pete Rose. I don't have the audio, so I will be interested to hear what he says, because I love Scott Van Pelt. I think he's one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I know, I'm a caricature of a man. I understand that. I'm devastated about Pete. Like, all of Cincinnati is devastated about Pete Rose. So that really sucks, man. It really, really sucks. I'll pass it off to you to take us home.
Yeah, and this is not to one up your tribute to an athlete that has captured the hearts of your city. But Dikembe Mutombo also died today.
Oh yeah, I
He
saw
was
that.
at the young age of 58 from brain cancer, I believe. So a tragic day in the sports world. A guy that will never be forgotten, largely because he had the longest index finger in the history of the world. So rest in peace to both those men. We will be back. We'll talk a little bit more football. Vikings play the Jets on the other side of the pond. So for the YouTube audience, skull y'all.